Private equity seems to be a hot topic. So today I brought in Joe Robb, who deals specifically with recruiting in the private equity space. Joe, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me, Brandon. It's a pleasure. It's good to see you again.
Yeah. So for our listeners, quick backstory: Joe and I worked together almost 2 decades ago when I was in Chicago for a brief amount of time. I realized that while recruiting may not be for me, without working there, I wouldn't be where I'm at. I met some people through that job. So, Joe, I owe you everything for where I'm at today. So thanks for giving me the shot many moons ago, man. I appreciate it.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. You earned it.
Well, thanks, man. So when I was there, we dealt with, and you still do the CEO, CFO work, it's kind of C-suite level, but you've recently, over the last maybe 5 to 10 years, transitioned into the PE space. Bring me up to speed, man. Like, how'd you get there? What's going on with that?
Yeah, it just kind of happened in conjunction with quite frankly COVID when everything kind of went remote. We just had some relationships that kind of started to organically develop with a few private equity companies. So when you worked with us, we were primarily doing kind of local based searches in Chicago for the CFO, anything under the CFO space. Um, Mostly these days, controller, VP of finance, director of finance, however it's titled for the either number one or kind of two, three people within the finance accounting side of the organization. And it's just kind of morphed into now doing all national searches, specifically for portfolio leadership or portfolio company leadership for private equity owned businesses.
Yeah, I mean, the PE space is fascinating to me, right? It's a different animal, takes a different person to be successful there.
Yeah.
Um, when you have a search brought to you, I mean, how do you go about finding that person? Talk me through kind of what that conversation may look like.
Yeah, to start, when I got into recruiting, I hated the term headhunter, but these days I embrace it because that's truly what and how I approach any search. Right, I don't really post many jobs. I kind of put my boots to the ground, and we do as a team. Just go in whatever market we might be working with it, or if even it's just remote, whatever industry. Just start to network with as many people as possible, right? And just having as many conversations with, good qualified people that lead to who do you know, and eventually that's how you end up finding the best people. It's always a case of the best people are always referred. So we really try to stick to that referral model and just have as many conversations with people as possible.
Yeah, that's one thing I liked about working with you, and you taught me. You said, it's not about convincing somebody or talking somebody into it. It's about just having the conversation. And if they're not right, that's fine. They may know of somebody. So, a lot of the people in the recruiting executive search space kind of come at it from a more aggressive standpoint. But I've always admired your ability to be laid back in these conversations. And I think it probably produces better results for the clients that you're working with. And so, speaking about clients you're working with, PE space, that world has kind of ballooned recently and morphed into a different animal. I mean, talk me through kind of what you're seeing in the landscape, how things are changing, what you're seeing in the space. What are you seeing?
Yeah, it has changed, right? I think there's a few driving factors. It's not very cost effective for kind of smaller mid-sized businesses to go the public route just because a cost of doing business standpoint. So those folks are a lot more attractive these days to private equity, and that's really where they want to play, right? They want to for the most part get in to a growing company, hopefully grow top line or a couple X's on revenue, and then add to the bottom line through business optimization. So yeah, I mean, just a ton of activity. Money's a little bit more expensive these days than it had previously been, so that's
Yeah.
slowed deal deals down a little bit. And so probably the last 16 months or so, it's been a little bit more about making sure that we have the right leadership in place now, to get the business optimized. So when deal activity comes back, we're in position to capitalize a strong exit strategy if we can.
Yeah. So, okay, you hit something, exit strategy. Let's go over that. So there's there's newbies and there's veterans, I'd say, right? So, um, no one gets into PE to stay with the same company forever, right? It's, they're not lifers, if you will, like the traditional person would think. I gotta think that you deal with people who might be successful in exiting or joining for the first time. Talk me through what you're seeing, maybe some pitfalls or some advice you'd give to people that are entering or exiting. Walk me through kind of what you're seeing there.
Yeah, I think, yeah, one of the things that happens with people, especially if it's their first kind time or time stepping into, a portfolio company leadership position, where they're now getting equity for the first time, and really a piece of the pie, which is very attractive, and everybody gets really excited about that. But there's a lot of questions that should be asked up front, and some of them have to do with the way the private equity company structures their ownership or your stake in the business, and what that ultimately translate as the business grows and gets to the point of exit. So I think one thing that most people can do a lot better is really educate themselves before accepting an offer, and really start the planning process probably then, right? Because as you get closer to exit, I think you're kind of behind the eight ball with your planning if you're just starting then.
Yeah, I saw an individual a few years ago who done pretty well, was exiting with about a $20 million position, and I get a call at like the 11th hour, right? And they're like, "Hey, I've got a tax problem." Like, well,
Yep.
yeah. First off, I'm not a CPA, but we deal with this quite a bit from an advanced planning perspective and from a strategy situation. And so, um, what we had to do is look at the ownership structure and entity, and so we could position the ownership to be in a state that didn't have such egregious tax situation. And so what we ended
Yep.
up doing was kind of restructuring that, and we were able to get it done in time. But it saved about $2 million. So that's $2 million that they can either put in towards the next deal because PE, they like to go into the next deal. But also, and I don't think this is talked about. I'd love to hear your perspective, but maybe take some chips off the table from some wins, right? Like take the house money out, maybe.
Yeah.
What do you like? What do you advise some of these guys that are coming out to do with like, hey, you've got all this money, maybe you want to put it away for a rainy day? Do you have those conversations with people?
Um, not too specifically, truthfully, just because I'm on the recruiting standpoint. So I'm more having the conversations going into
Hmm.
the taking of the position versus the exit of it.
Yeah.
Um, but to your point, like I've got one good client who had previously been a CRO, and just with the way that the organization he was leaving had the equity structured, it cost him seven figures on a tax bill, and so he hadn't been aware of that kind of until that exit situation came about,
Yeah.
and now he's a lot smarter and asking better questions as he moves forward to make sure he's negotiating, what's most advantageous for him individually from an offer. So it's just one of those things that a lot of people need to think more about.
Yeah, I mean, I think they look at the pre-tax number, right? And I think sometimes they're stepping over a dollar to pick up a dime. The pre-tax number in my mind doesn't mean nearly as much as the post-tax number, right? Like
Yeah,
that's a really big difference that people should really just sit down, take a minute, focus on. So you go in eyes wide open instead of like this individual, right? Sometimes baffled or questioning how you got to that point. Well, you didn't plan properly. And I think that
yeah,
like that it as you're going into this, I think it's important to partner with advisors and with recruiters that understand the PE space specifically, right? I mean, I'm sure you're privy to certain nuances in that space that others aren't. Any insight there?
yeah. You're exactly right. If you're working with a recruiter that doesn't know much about the private equity space, they're not going to help you to ask the right questions, right? They're not going to help lead you to solve some of the issues that you might face up front, right? They're just going to be a little bit. They just can't advise you well on what questions to ask that really impact you financially long term. So I think that you're exactly right. It's just the same as the old concept of if you're going to start a business, you need a good lawyer, you need a good accountant. If you're going to get into the private equity space, you need a good advisor, you need a good accountant, you need a good recruiter, people that are going to, help make sure that you're understanding what the situation is going to be for you upon exit, and making sure you're best prepared to handle that.
Yeah, I think the questions unasked really can do more damage than people understand. I mean, we see that
Yeah,
time and time again of if I would have known, I would have asked the question. Because let's be honest, in the PE space, and if people are selling businesses, they're not always offering everything. Like, if think about it, you go to sell your house, you're not going to be like, "Hey, there was a flood in my basement, and this is the exact point to go look at. Like, check these things, look at them." Like that's not happening, right? So if you have a good advisor, they could say, "Okay, well, let's look at these areas or these certain warning signs could mean like stay away from some of these companies or deals," right? I mean, you see it time
yeah.
and time again, I'm sure.
Yeah, and I mean, it's a tough thing for most people when they're going through the interview process, right? Because I mean, ultimately, the most successful placement are going to be people that are really excited about the challenge of the role, or whatever it's taking. So also having the right advisors that help kind of rein you in, and kind of take a step back from the excitement, and make sure, okay, it's offering you, A, B, and C for your career, which are all very important points. But the back end, we have to make sure that you're asking all the right questions and setting yourself up for the best, return for yourself individually as well. And it's just people get caught up in that excitement, and just kind of being part of the equity stake, that they jump ahead, and don't kind of go through the process, calmly and collectively, if you will.
Yeah, and so we've talked about a few themes here, but like one that's sticking out to me as we're talking is like the future, like look ahead, look like don't just get caught in the moment. As someone who is, I would say, I don't know if a serial networker is the right term for you, but I mean, you're talking to people every day, right? Um,
Yep.
I mean, we always tell people like invest in yourself, right? That includes education, networking, planning. Like, um, I mean, what's your advice to people in this space and that are maybe exiting or entering as far as like, hey, reinvest in your future. How does that look?
Yeah, I think, especially for a lot of up and comers that are kind of new in the space, I think getting outside your comfort zone a little bit, because you've got the networking has gone from when I started my career to being all face to face or talking on the phone, to now being mostly social media, or having conversations over a Zoom or a Teams, or whatever it may be, and kind of networking. Um, through the internet, and video calls these days, rather than in person. And so I think, just taking the time to look up what networking events specifically relate to private equity, like an organization like the Association for Corporate Growth, which is a nationwide, and has major chapters in every city, with excellent networking um, opportunities and events, to go to those, to get outside your comfort zone, start to meet people that are in your space, and kind of tell your story a little bit, because that's when opportunities really start to open up. People get to know you a little bit personally, and networking can be somewhat like, stacking up a row of dominoes. Like, once you knock over that first domino through a networking standpoint, it opens up a lot more opportunities down
Yeah.
the line. So I think that would be, just in easy, inexpensive way, to really just expand your network, is get outside of social and into the face-to-face networking again.
Yeah. And I think you've been advocate of this too. When it comes to networking, I always advise people stop being interested in what you can get out of a conversation and start being interested in how you can help somebody else. Like
Yeah,
so many people are interested at looking in the mirror. Well, look out the window. Like, what can we do to impact others, not just ourselves? I think the biggest return of my time is when I'm not thinking about myself and I'm trying to help others. And that wins time over time and over time again. But you can't fake it. You have to be genuine. Like, you can fake it maybe
absolutely.
for a little bit, but people are going to read through that BS eventually. They're going to know, like, hey, this person's not genuine. And so I think
Yeah,
that you guys do a really good job of that. I mean, when I was 23, 24, 25 working with you, it was see how you can help other people. And I think when you look at networking, like people just miss the mark there entirely.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people out there that are very good at it, and they do understand it, but it is a skill, and it does take time to develop it because naturally people are, they step into networking with their own motivations in mind. How is this going to help me? That is the purpose why everybody from starts to develop
Mhm.
a professional network. But at some point, you do realize that it is that kindness that comes from you, the genuineness to help others that makes them remember you more times than not,
Yeah.
and makes them want to put effort into to helping you versus just being a quick introduction and then forgetting about you. The more effort that you put into helping others, the more they want to help you.
Yeah, and you mentioned something earlier, to me, about, you could join private equity, and once it's done, you may not get picked up again or stay with them. Talk about kind of how that process works from situation to situation as far as what you're seeing.
Yeah, it's the tough part about private equities. If you go in, say you get picked up by a PE company and they ask you to lead one of their businesses, whether it be running the whole thing or running the finance side of the organization. If you do a great job and you help them get to a grand slam exit, they're handcuffed for a couple of years and they can't hire you. So
Congratulations.
that's kind of goes back to the networking standpoint of you kind of have to be out there telling your story before you get the grand slam exit because you're going to be handcuffed with the guys that or the people that know you, and so you're going to have to get out there and find other contacts to help write the second story or the next chapter of your book with. So it's highly important to get out there and network and continue to build that so you can keep the your opportunities stacked and succeed not with just one firm but many.
Yeah. So, Joe, thanks for your time today. Any other piece of wisdom or advice you would give to anybody entering this space, that you haven't covered yet? Any last parting words of wisdom for us?
Never be afraid to ask questions. Some people get intimidated, especially if they're going after a role that they want, where they don't want to ask too detailed of questions. But that's counterintuitive with the folks that they're dealing with in the private equity space. These individuals want you to get really detailed. They want to see how your mind works and asking them questions and challenging them through the process, because then they can identify that if you have the skill set to be the type of advocate that they need internally within their portfolio companies.
Well, Joe, thanks for joining us today, taking time out of your busy day to talk with us. If someone had questions for you and want to get a hold of you, how would they do that?
Yeah, they can track me down on LinkedIn. Easy to find there. They can reach out to us at the Tory and Gray website at torygray.com. Happy to have a conversation with anybody that we can possibly help.
Cool, Joe. Thanks for your time today. I appreciate it as always. And thanks for giving me a shot many years ago as a young lad who didn't know much about recruiting, but was eager to learn. So thanks for your time today. And as always, let's keep moving forward together.